Me here. Who else would it be? This is Observations with Otsu. This is the Tuesday edition, October 22nd. For me, hope you've had a good week and a good weekend. If you haven't, if I haven't talked to you, I guess so. We had a pretty good week overall last week. Pretty good weekend as well. We'll see how this goes. Are we going to make some new highs? What does this breakout on the weekly have to do with anything? Is it of some substance? Are we going to deviate here? Let's get into it. First things first, I want to talk about some preliminaries. The very first one is my Apex trading group. This is my private Discord group. There is a free group and there is a paid group. The paid one is only $20 a month. It's extremely cheap. I try to keep it down as much as I can so that people have access to it, but also it's a way to prevent the bots from showing up as well because I can vet them much easier, and so I don't really make a ton of money off of it. But it's a way to support me as I support you in a sense. And we have the private group, as you can see on the screen, with daily market analysis. That's for both free and paid groups. We have videos, dedicated videos, where I share lots of coin, usually whatever comes my way. Some days I think I've had upwards of 15 in one day, but sometimes I have as few as three or four. It just depends on the particular day. If there is no particular trading opportunities, we tend to look at some reviews. We tend to look at more educational stuff. We tend to look at maybe the trading performances or the weekly time frames, for example. So we have plenty of content to circulate, and so I'm not just feeding you coins and then just not even considering it, right? I'm being dynamic according to the market based off my Apex system, which is the Apex Academy that I run. That's my personal trading system that I have used for at least 4 years now, and I share that quite often. In addition, we also have trading positions. So a lot of times I will record the video, and let's say so for yesterday's video we had 7 coins. And so what I did was I took screenshots of all 7 coins and whether those positions or commentary, and I posted those as well. So you don't have to watch the videos either. I usually do a written summary. I do also do a written summary. I also record it in 4K, and then I also upload some screenshots for those positions. So if you can't watch them or you don't want to, that's completely fine. We do some other things. We do private videos. We just started a small cap. I didn't get to upgrade this on the screenshot here, but I did start a small cap group that's completely free of charge, added onto the group. We're up about 380%, I think. It's 300 something percent. Um, we bought a few coins. Bongo was one of those coins that went up pretty substantially. And so we've been doing pretty good with that. So that's the private group. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. So in addition to that, I want to introduce you to some new video series or some written content series because there's going to be both. There's going to be videos and there's going to be written content, as you guys know. This is You're probably watching this on YouTube. I'm also going to extend a lot of my content back to Twitter or X, which is where I started my crypto journey from as far as content goes. I'm going to really pump out the content. So what I'm pretty much going to do is YouTube is going to be the heavy video content. Twitter is going to be light video content and written content. And so part of the written content is going to be talking about projects, talking about the utilities, talking about why meme coins, which isn't really a product or utility, is a good reason to buy things. And so I'm going to look at things practically, and that's going to extend into the video section with YouTube with this series, Practical Charting and Trading. I want to focus on something, I want to focus on the simplicity and efficiency of charting and trading. Okay, there's a lot of confusion out there. I think there's a lot of people that hide under what I call like the CSI theory, like the CSI on TV show. Like people watch that to kind of feel intelligent, but they're actually not doing any of the intelligent work. They're letting the characters do the work. Same with crypto Twitter. A lot of people look at high intelligent, quote unquote, high intelligent traders to come up with these high IQ theories, and they don't work out any more than someone else with a 20 IQ that just longs things but with the 1000x leverage. See what I'm saying? So I want to kind of do something in the middle to have a very practical trading series, practical charting and trading. It's going to be, I don't want to say beginner, but it's going to be shaped more for everyone to understand. I'm going to explain it like I'm five. Explain it like you're five, and be able to explain this properly. I'm not. I'm not going to make this complicated, right? I'm not going to show you any OI charts, any heat maps, things like that. I'm just going to keep it very simplistic. And the reason why is not because I'm looking at talking to beginners, but because trading can be simple. It can be practical. And in fact, it is for many cases, right? Um, I just saw a quote from Warren Buffett this past week where one of the biggest things is emotional trading, and that's a very common theme. Emotional trading gets you chopped out. Focusing on too low time frames gets you sidelined, things like that. And crypto Twitter has a very big problem with this. They focus on FOMC meetings that don't really do anything. I haven't looked at one for almost 2 years now, and I've been doing just fine. And this past 2 years have been probably my best two trading years. And so things like that, they focus on the news. Are they looking at like Michael Saylor or something like this? And so this will bring things back down to earth, is the whole point. It's not necessarily beginner. I'm just bringing things down to earth, keeping it more practical. And one of the problems that people have with trading is because they're not thinking practical enough. They're trying to find a really high intelligent way to trade when they don't have to, especially in the crypto world, when you could trade probably the 100 moving average or even the 50 moving average, and you could outpace somebody with an S&P 500 on Wall Street with a broker. Okay, you're making this hard on yourself. But anyway, I'll digress from that. It's gonna be a really fun series. I'm gonna give it a shot for probably the month of December, and then we'll go with that. So that's one of the first series that I'll introduce. Another series that I am going to start is something I'm just calling cryptocurrency reviews. Now, might be a working title. I'm going to try to figure this out and see how can this be more appealing. This is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. This is going to be a high shelf outlook on things. I've always wanted to, especially with my writing background, look at reviews on different projects. And there's a few reasons, because one, I want to do it. This is something that I really like to do. I research coins as they are anyway, so I want to present them to you. Two, a lot of people don't really know what to value. How can I, look at a coin in particular and see, well, how good of a coin is this? How bad is it? Have they had any, because I'm thinking about Eigenlayer, which is supposed to be a high shelf coin where they just had their Twitter compromised. See what I'm saying? So we're going to take a look at that. And so I'm going to look at kind of a rating. And so what I'm probably going to do, and this may change, but I'm going to cover maybe 3 to 4 coins per video, have a rating system, and then I'm going to compare these with other coins that I do. So after every video that I do every week, let's say, or whenever I do them, I'm going to have more and more and more to rate. I'm actually going to post these on a written format as well, so you can take a look at those. You can compare, see which ones are doing good, see which ones are doing bad, and you just compare them overall to the statistics. So I'm supposed to have a spreadsheet and some data points, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops. I don't really know how this will develop. It's something I wanted to try to do, and so we'll see how that goes. So that is another series that I'm looking at. Lastly, as far as video series go, I'm going to reintroduce my series on tactical trading. This is something that I did last year. I didn't get very far, maybe a few videos into that. I really had a lot of plans for this. Things kind of, other things had occurred. So I am going to bring this back. Now, the difference between this and the practical charting and trading is the practical series is going to be more, not necessarily basic, but just, for any particular users, it's going to look at more just theory and education, things like that. Tactical trading is going to be practical application, right? And for the first series, it'll be practical ideas. This will be application. This will be strategizing, looking at different opportunities, trying to refine your trades to do better. So this is going to be slightly for more advanced people, for one, but mainly to look for an edge, right? And so we're the charting, the charting series and the practical charting series is just going to be, like a variety of different themes. It's going to be more baseline. It's going to be more foundational. Where tactical trading is going to be finding your particular edge, finding maybe some not necessarily high shelf, but specific ways to look at the charts to make money, and maybe not even have to. It doesn't have to look at charts. It's just the trading aspect in general. Like what makes sense. Even can cover things outside of trading that do apply to trading, like making sure you get some rest and eating healthy and things like that. And so they will be a different series. I think a lot of people will enjoy the tactical trading series. People did like it when I introduced it, but like I said, it was a limited series. Now I'm going to bring this back in full force. So that's the third series that I am looking at. So that being said, those are the three series. I'm also going to be introducing a few more things, more written content. I'm going to try to do a couple live streams. I've been hesitant to do live streams because of certain things, my special needs son, things like that. It's hard for me to continuously record. I tend to take breaks when I do these kind of videos. I've already taken a couple in this video itself, and so that is a dynamic that I'll try to overcome. In addition to that, I'm probably going to start doing some spaces on X and some longer written form content. You're going to see kind of an explosion of content because I've been really trying to up what I'm doing for numerous reasons. There's quite a few different reasons, but I hope that you're excited about that. And then again, as you see on screen, the Apex is my overarching kind of trading brand. It stands for ARUN, price, action, and exponential. That is a trifecta of methods that I use to trade, and I trade, hopefully trade effectively. Historically, it's been effective, but that doesn't mean it won't in the future. But this is something that I'm looking at. Apex Academy is something that I'm looking at, hoping to launch that possibly maybe within the next month or so. We'll see how that goes. I will be leaving the country for 4 months, so we'll see how that works out. So anyway, so that's the three series and what I've got planned. Go ahead and sign up for that private group if you want to. It's only $20 a month, and that it supports me a cup of coffee a week or so, and then it allows me to do a lot of the work for you, so you don't have to go search for things yourself. So anyway, that's the preliminaries. Let's get into the video and the theme for this video. So now that the intro and the preliminaries are out of the way, the theme for this video is, are we on to new highs? Are we getting ready to go to new highs in Bitcoin? And for that, it would basically be a touch above pretty much 74,000 if you round up with that. So not going to get into the minutia of that, but that's something to consider, something to look at. Observations with Otsu, which is this video, focuses on the weekly time frames, and we'll take a look at that. We made a lot of progress on the weekly time frame on multiple coins. We are covering Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Sui, and Dogecoin for this video. We're going to do 5 coins today, so this is probably the most I've ever done in a lineup, and that's probably, obviously that's, I think that is welcome because of the anticipated bull run that we're looking at. There are some people that disagree. I understand why they disagree, but we'll look at that. And so that's kind of the second theme of this video is, do we have enough momentum here to run this? Okay. Is this just a top? How can we view this? And so we'll take a look at these, and we'll take a look at them one at a time. And we will start with Bitcoin as we normally do, and work our way down the list: Ethereum, Solana, Sui, and then we'll do Dogecoin last. So, all right, on to Bitcoin. All right, so starting with Bitcoin, we're going to go ahead and erase all of this. I try to clear things up for the video, and I'll try to make these a little shorter. I've been saying that for quite some time, though, but I end up being about 45 minutes of video. So let's see if we can get that down to 30. So with Bitcoin in particular, we closed here. We had a pretty nice bullish candle, not necessarily an impressive candle on its own, but relative to its location, it's pretty solid. Now, obviously, from a price action standpoint, one of the main things we're looking at is this trend line. I think a lot of people are discussing that. A lot of high time frame traders are looking at this. There's a new trader I've been following. I can't remember his name. And I won't say it because there's names similar to that I don't like, so I need to make sure who that person is. But a lot of people have been focusing on this trend line break, and I mentioned this last week as well in one or two of my videos, maybe a smaller one, and how important this is. Now, from a price action perspective, this is a little, you got the trend, right? So that's pretty good. Now, that's not necessarily price action trading per se, like trend moves like that are not definitively under the price action umbrella. I mean, they kind of are, but specifically people you do horizontals and verticals with price action and not diagonals. Diagonals much more of a trend thing under the trend umbrella, and that's why I use my Apex system. Honestly, and one of the reasons at least is because I'm allowed to do both. Okay, the Apex system, and I'm honestly not trying to plug, but with the Arun price action and then exponential, I'm able to do three different trading systems at once. I take bits and pieces of each and I put them together and where that makes sense because despite the fact that I really enjoy Arun and I'm probably one of, you know, I think I was probably one of the only ones to use it when I first started. I think now there's probably a group of about 30 of you that use it. There's still some flaws in it, just like there is in any particular system. Just like there are pros and cons to price action, pros and cons to trend. Okay, and so what if you're trend trading and there is no trend? Like, how do you interpret that, right? So the way I interpret that is I am primarily a hybrid trend based trader. And so when there is no trend, I switch to price action because price action is much more of a range, at least in my opinion. I'm able to trade better price action wise under range trading. And when there's a range breakout, then I switch to trend. Okay. And Aaron allows me to do both. It's a trend and momentum indicator. It allows me to see that. So all of those work together. And so that's what I teach in the academy. Um, and one of the reasons some of you may struggle is because you're focusing on one particular discipline. You're trying to follow a price action trader and everything's not working with you. And that could be why the reason that could be is maybe you could incorporate some trend aspects as well, but you can't because you feel like that's going to be outside of a discipline. And all that's all weird. You know, you should make up your own discipline. You're going to be better off that way, or even take a modern discipline or current, even if it's wave trading, and apply it your own way. Okay, whatever makes sense for you to make money, right? So that's how we interpret that. Now, as far as this current candle goes, this is a trend breakout here. Now, this is also somewhat of a range breakout, so I'm going to get rid of this here and look at this from a range. So this in particular is a range, and it has not broken this range, right? Um, Now that being said, if we get rid of this, it has broken this top zone here, and I'll just do the bottom of that for clarification. So it has broken above this zone. So what you want to see here is a break above this on the weekly. You absolutely want this to be a bullish candle. Now, it doesn't have to be. There's other things that can happen if we don't break above the zone. But this is one of the main reasons why things are looking so bullish right now, because we have a trend line break and we also have a price action break on the interim on the price. Now, I don't particularly view this as a range because you had some diagonals here, and this is why like trend and momentum really does matter sometimes, because I don't necessarily view it like this. What I tend to do is I view like, let's say this is a range and this was a deviation because you had the lower lows here, so this makes it inside the range. When you, or lower highs, I should say, when you get lower highs, you are stuck inside that range. But then when you go outside the range, then that no longer is part of the range, and then when it comes back up, that's a deviation. It doesn't make a new range necessarily. You can make that a new range, and some people trade effectively that way. But I don't particularly view it that way because this is not really a range anymore. This is a series of lower lows, right? And so when you get a lower low and you go back above, that's a deviation. We actually had one here, and then it broke below, and then it rejected, and then this broke below again. Once that did that again, this becomes the new range, right? So once you kind of go back above, this is the new definitive area. Now, if we were to go below into like the 55,000 territory, then this would become the range. But this, as it stands, is a deviation, and I am a big, huge fan of deviations. I will talk about deviations in the tactical trading series. And so, what this basically interprets is that this was basically a fake out. Fake outs are very strong; they tend to go to the upside, and we've ripped ever since. Now, we going back to this trend line, this is significant to me. Typically, when we get those range breakouts, we do tend to send. This was one here that could be interpreted more diagonal if you desire. I'm fine with it just being horizontal. You had one here that was good. And then You could also interpret this one as such, even though it did retest the lows. And so this could retest the lows. And then you also had another one here. In fact, this actually probably extends even farther, but it looks weird, so I'll get rid of it. And then last but not least, here's the bottom one. This is one that I was particularly looking at the time, and I bought roughly in this range. I think I bought on this wick actually, somewhere on there. But you can see in all six or all five of the previous cases, they all ran up. There's only one that really retested back to break even. The rest of them didn't give you a chance really to retest that much, unless you want to count this wick right here. So that's why I take that very seriously, because they're usually a sign of a new push upwards. When you get a diagonal break like this is a sign that demand is stronger than it has let you on. Okay, and so that means it's also more genuine as well. When it's more genuine, it tends not to retest. Okay, um, a lot of people don't understand the supply and demand with this, so that's pretty much that in a nutshell. And I took up a lot of time for that, but I wanted to explain that because people are really, it's really interesting. We have quite a few, in my opinion, and I could be wrong. I think we have way too many bears right now compared to where we're at. We're about 7% from the lows, and we're up for the today technically. So, I mean, we were 6.5% from or from the highs. I meant to say, not the lows. Geez. Um, we were about 6.5% down from the highs yesterday, and we're about the same where we are today. I think that's a really weird time to be bearish. Very weird. I mean, even if you want to be very simple, there's a huge cup and handle here, right? And so that's also a bullish sign as well. And so you just kind of have to play this out. This is a bullish formation. I don't understand why this is very controversial. Okay, I don't know, and I don't want to be one of those guys that be like, well, you guys are just idiots and you didn't get in. I don't want to do that either. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to be rude to you necessarily. I won't be rude to you on purpose, but my goal here is to show you like what's right in front of us, right? And that's what I'll talk about in the practical series. Is we need to just look at what's at face value, right? Don't overcomplicate the process, okay? There are times to complicate the you should never complicate it on purpose. There are times to look into details, right? But don't make this more complicated when you could boil this down and look at something simpler and have a better R value probably as well. So now going to Aaron, we have a very thin bullish consolidation. This We are accelerating a little bit higher than this consolidation gives way. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. It could mean a sign of strength, but what I'm kind of interpreting is that once this crosses bullish, it's going to cross low on at least, below 21 for sure. We're probably going to get a bit of little weakness. We might get a tick down for a couple weeks, and then we'll probably send. I don't know how long that will be necessarily, and that might counterbalance that consolidation. But I think, long story short, I don't think it's going to matter too much. I think we will probably still go forward, and a lot of the crosses on the low side ended up actually being very good. I mean, this one did not, and so, or that was a bearish cross. I'm sorry. So this was a bullish one here, and that went well. But that was at 56. So like usually you want these to cross pretty high on the spectrum here, but here was one about 18% that led to the rally. So that could be the case. It doesn't matter as much on the weekly, if I'm being honest with you. So mainly not because of where it hits on the spectrum, but because crosses happen so few on weekly and higher that you just need to focus on it more of a trend. Okay, lower time frames are more for momentum. And higher time frames are trend. You really don't look at momentum on higher time frames anyway. If somebody's being honest with you and they're a momentum trader, they probably don't look at momentum higher than 1 week anyway. So that's kind of what I see with that. Now the RSI is above 50. That's my main area, and I learned that from CBS Cold Blood Schiller. If you're interested, why we have a similar approach to that. I was mentored by him. I owe a lot of my trading application to him, so I appreciate if you're watching. Thank you, and I say hi. But the 50 in particular is a momentum shift, right? And so that's what I'm looking at. If we get above the 50, we're good to go. That's all I care about on the RSI on something like this. The only thing I really care about for RSI is, are we above the 50 or not, and do we have a divergence or not? And then for taking profits, especially on lower time frames, my 80 percentile is what I'm interested in. A lot of people focus on 70. I focus on 80 because crypto is more of a bullish asset, and I really only trade cryptocurrency. I do have stocks, but I usually hold them for several years for different different reasons. But so that's that. So the weekly I think looks really really good. Um, and the other coins I'll cover this video will go faster than that. So this is the daily perspective. I usually cover this. I'll keep this short because I usually cover this in the regular video. But there's a difference of opinion here. You have this situation here where we actually cross below, and so you have that to look as a potential deviation. I don't consider this a deviation because of the layout. I actually was looking at something more so like this, and that, in my opinion, covers. Now, on the opposing side, you have you still have a few things to look at here. Now on the weekly, or hold on, I think I had it here, but I can't remember where it was. I think it was right here I was looking at. And so this is a matter of placement. Now you can see where I just kind of changed that up. Now and one of the reasons I changed it because it matches this retest, but I didn't do it because of that. I did that because it matches the most crosses here on the side. Now you could switch this up and try to focus more down here, and try to get you only got two really, right? You got one, two, and you won't get this one up here. So that only covers two of the tops, right? I try not to count the wicks if I can avoid it. And this one gets three, and so that's why I focus on this one, is because the more tops you can get, the better. Okay, wicks can count, but they are variable. Again, that's going to be a practical charting series discussion, and that's one reason I'm doing the video series, is because there's lots to discuss for things like that. So anyway, that's how I see it. There's three tops connected, and so that's why the retest takes place. I think this looks pretty good here. I think this will probably hold, and if it doesn't, it's probably going to come back here to somewhere within this range. And this is also why it's probably holding as well. But if it doesn't, it probably go back to 65.7. I think we have a ways to go. I don't foresee a huge drop here, at least for Bitcoin. Some other coins are dropping. We'll get into that here in a second. So that's pretty much the daily as well. Aaron's doing good. RSI is doing fine as well. And so that is Bitcoin in a nutshell. That's what I'm looking at. Weekly looks very strong to me. We do have a bullish breaker right here, so there's a small chance we can come back down to 63,300. So make sure you look out for that as well. And a lot of bears are excited for that. I think that's a possibility. I think it's probably like 10% or less, but we'll see where that goes. So that is Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and go to the altcoins, and we'll start with Ethereum. All right, let's go to Ethereum here. Now on the weekly, a little bit different, and Bitcoin's going to be unique in this sense. Actually, I want to take a small look at the total market cap to give you an idea of the Bitcoin's impact. Of course, you guys know that Bitcoin is the market leader. It always has been. I'm pretty sure it always will be in that regard. And I do think Ethereum will underperform this cycle versus other coins. Now, with the total market cap, this is what you see. You see a very similar situation on the weekly as the market break out with Bitcoin, and so that's the same thing, just a little bit elevated there. Now, if you go to Ethereum, it's much less the case, and Solana is similar but not like it, and that just goes to show that Ethereum here is relatively weak versus Bitcoin, versus Solana, versus really everything, despite what the ETH BTC pair, ETH Sol pair might say. It's not going to be conclusive, and people don't really trade BTC pairs anymore. I kind of wish that we did, because you could make a lot of Bitcoin back then, and so not so much the case now. Not because you can't, but because it's much more unpredictable. Everybody looks at the U.S. dollar and Tether formations for the most part, not always, but for the most part. It's 99% in favor of stablecoin pairings. Now, let's go to the weekly here, and we had a pretty good close here, but we're still within this range. A little bit different from a price action perspective. You're kind of stuck within here. You're at the highs. We need to break this. Need to break 2741 or really just 2750 to kind of round. I try to round up usually to kind of give us some cushion, and so that's the outlook that I'm looking at. The downside target is going to be about 2300. It is possible that we could return there. I think it's unlikely that we push further because we have a consolidation structure here, and then you have all this right here. It would be the R&R would be dramatically low. You'd have to trade on very low time frames to make some money with that. So looking for an upside break. We're not really going to get it just yet, I don't think. We'll see how that goes. Now, you also have your swing low order block here as a resistance, so we really need to clear. Honestly, we probably just need to clear 3,000 altogether, but high 2,900s or mid 2,900s, I should say, to kind of get that extra momentum boost. And so we'll see where that goes. I think it's going to be interesting. Now, we are kind of in a channel. I don't really particularly like this, but this is valid, and so you have a confluence point right here around the 2,900 area. It is possible that we breach up above here the next few weeks and then we reject. There's all sorts of outcomes. Ethereum is much more unpredictable. I still think it looks great, honestly. And I'll show you another reason here in a second. But I think it's going to have some trouble versus Solana and even Dogecoin and even Sui, because a lot of those coins are over. They're performing very well. Solana is the de facto ecosystem for this cycle. I don't even think that's an argument, really, at least a strong one. And so there is something to say, like, will Ethereum reach new highs? I don't particularly know. I think there's a good case that it won't, honestly, but I also think there's a good case that it will. I'm not going to look at that. My point is, does it give us some trend momentum? And on the ARN, it's still bearish, so just keep that in mind overall. Now, looking here from this zone, this was your low here on this weekly situation, and that was a divergence as well. By the way, we faked out and we held above the zone. So if we can hold above the 2,500, really just 2,500 even, or 2,530, I think that we're going to hold this pretty well. I don't think there's going to be a significant shift up or down, honestly. And so again, that's why I'm focusing on other coins. If you want to be in Ethereum, I think that's perfectly fine. But I think anything more than like a focused leveraged option or like a high time frame, forget that you even have an option. I think those two extremes are probably going to be a better R&R versus being in the middle. And a lot of Ethereum coins aren't really performing as well. They're starting to warm up. Dogecoin's a great example of that, but by far it has underperformed. Now let's go ahead and go to the daily here. This is kind of what I'm looking at with this. You had the push up above this zone, so this is great, but we actually rejected here from this top for the swing high order block, and so now kind of stuck within these two ranges. I don't particularly like this. This is looking basically like a deviation. So what we could see here, actually, I just drew that wrong. I looking something like so. This doesn't have to be super precise, but looking for like an ascending pressure structure here and to see how that operates. Now, unfortunately, that may take up to the first week of December to try to figure that out. And that's kind of what I presented to you on the weekly. Are you okay with this not moving for a month? And most people are going to say no. Okay, I think Ethereum has had its day. I'm not saying it's not going to get a new all-time high. I think there's a good case that it won't. But Solana, like I said, it's their cycle. I firmly believe, based off of the Sol meme coins that people are trading, based off the activity. It's got historic activity again this week. There's a lot of situations where Solana is in control of the activity, right? And so that makes Ethereum much more of a stable coin, unfortunately. And we haven't even moved here really since August. I mean, we've been back and forth, but nothing particularly significant, nothing worth trading, in my opinion, right? And we're back to our lows from earlier this year, or from prices from earlier this year. And we were even here back in 2022, 2021. And we're way above 18, of course, and that's the situation. Like, if you look at this from the highs were like basically 1,400 back in 2018, and not to add insult, but let's just say 1,400. I mean, we're basically 86% from that high from 5 years, or really almost probably 6 years ago. And so, is that worth it to you? Okay, like, I made more than that on a small cap coin earlier this past week. So I'm not saying to do that or to not do that, but I'm saying look at that performance. It's very, very, very lackluster compared to Bitcoin. that's had about a 3 or 4x that was especially against Solana that has a 12x. So Ethereum has massively underperformed. It's underperformed Sui. It's even underperformed Dogecoin. And so by far it is the slowest runner in the race right now. So just be mindful of that when you trade. You may be okay with that. You may not be okay with it. Now again, it comes with a caveat. It may not go down as far either. That's the thing. So just keep that in mind. I think there are some pros to that as well. That's going to be your decision, of course. Now, Arun, it's starting to tick down, which means we're going to get a bearish consolidation possibly. There is a chance that we could come back down to this breaking area here at about 24.84. Would not be surprised if we get just a drop down here at the 24, basically 2,500, and we go back above. And I think 2,500 would be a good buy opportunity given those conditions. We definitely do not want to lose this trend line. That would pretty much signal another month, possibly 2 months of non-bullish price action. Could be bearish, could be choppish, but non-bullish price action. RSI is doing just fine with that. Nothing really to comment with that. So that's Ethereum. I kind of wish it was better. Unfortunately, that's just kind of what I have to report. And yeah, I firmly do believe it's the weakest of the five. And that's a shame because Dogecoin is an Ethereum token. And so I don't know what's up with Ethereum, but hey, I'm going to trade better. I'm going to trade where I can get the best opportunities. And I think Ethereum is really hit or miss sometimes. I think we do have a chance to go up to 4,000, or at least if we can run this zone, honestly, at 28.25, I think we can have a shot here at 3,900. I really think we could. But until then, we got to wait for that break. So that's Ethereum. Let's go to Solana. All right, now we are on Solana. This is the weekly situation. So we did Bitcoin, Ethereum. Now we're doing Solana. We have Sui and Dogecoin next. The next two will go a little bit faster than this. I'm going to accelerate this as I go, mainly because Bitcoin is the overarching context for the rest of the coin. So we looked at Bitcoin. You saw that. If you haven't, you can go check that out. Ethereum, a little bit lackluster. Solana's kind of in the middle. I think it's pushing a little more bullish overall. And there's a few different reasons to look at this. So first of all, price action perspective. You can look at this like so. We're kind of in the middle of this zone here. Here's the low, or the high, the low, breaching above the mid here. So we're above the mid, about 165. Going to try to push up to that 200 again. It's going to be the first time that we've attempted to do this back, since back in March. So we'll see if we can get that. Now, in addition to that, from a trend line perspective, we have this situation. Now, this is a continuation pattern. This is very classic continuation, triangle pennant, whatever you may call that. Most of the time, it is a continuation. It's not as high probability as other things. It's kind of like it's like a moderate probability, like a little bit above average, I should say. And there is some hopium, so to speak, with this. There's a very thin consolidation here. Very similar to Bitcoin. It's following Bitcoin much more. It is performing much better. It's much more healthier. The coins are being traded on it. Like for every 100 trades I've heard about Solana memes, what have you, there's maybe like 1 to 3 on Ethereum. And I'm being pretty serious. Whenever somebody's talking to me about trading tokens for the past couple years, it's been on Solana. It really has, especially the past 12 months. It's been almost exclusively Solana, 99%. And there's a few reasons for that. One, the memes are just funner, right? I mean, there's other things like of course there's Dogecoin and SHIB, but Solana has Bonk, dog with hat, other things. They have utility coins like Nosana, and a few other things like that. Lots of other coins. I think Ethereum does have Pepe, but all the cat and most of the current debt, all of the cat and dog coins lately have been on Solana, right? And so I think that is one reason we're seeing that performance, and and the fees are cheaper too. It's much more mobile friendly. A lot of people use mobile apps and wallets, things like that, and then things like MetaMask have always been kind of troublesome versus Solana, so those kind of play out really well. And so this is pretty much it, honestly, for Solana. The RSI is looking pretty good. I think this is very healthy. I've been focusing almost exclusively on this pattern. I think anything else is really borderlines noise on lower time frames because you're just looking at a few bucks here or there. I think this is the breakout that we're going to be looking at for 200 and even beyond that. So let's go ahead and go to the daily. do do this a little just for a few minutes here. And the main thing I'm looking at with is this breach of this zone. You had a few lower highs, I should say. And so it finally broke above. It's holding this zone. This is consolidation at resistance. This is typically a bullish sign. Doesn't have to work out that way because we had that previously back in July, and then it actually rejected. So be careful about that. You need to let this confirm overall. Now this previous one in July actually is going to serve as resistance as well. And so the trigger I'm looking at is something above 178, probably 179 to be a little more careful with that. And so if we just round up to 180, I think 180 is going to be your target point for a continuation run. Now, the only caveat I think that's not bearish, but might cause some impatience is that we could still chop here, and it could be as late as the first week of December to kind of go upwards for this impulse. So just keep that in mind. But that's Solana. I think it's really healthy. I think it's more simplistic. A lot of people are focusing on the tokens themselves and not so much on Solana. So I think it's worth checking out as far as a long-term spot holding strategy versus an active trading strategy. And I think that's reflective of the people that trading the tokens as well. So that's Solana. Let's go to SUI. Look at SUI on the weekly. SUI and Dogecoin take a little less time than the rest, but on the weekly formation, I am going to clear all this out. And for the past two candles, we've been bearish overall. Now, in regards to this, you have this zone right here. You have kind of a swing high order block like so. We're hovering above that right now. The weekly is not done. We still have 5 days left, actually, a little over 5 days. So if you are a SUI bull, you want this to be protected. This is a very huge range. I talked earlier this week and later and the previous week in my Discord group that we would hit 190. We pretty much hit there on the downside, hit 189. For a weekly structure, you want this to hold. We've got plenty of time to do that. If we do, then I think we have a great chance to go on forward. Another thing I'm looking at is this kind of trend, this trend resistance right here. And this is a big thing I talk about in both my regular and my premium groups, is that my target is usually the trend resistance of this. Usually that's a lot harder to break. In this particular case, it was perfect on the weekly. So that's another thing to consider. Overall, that's pretty much the zone. If you are bullish on this and this closes above the 190 marker, I think that's a great buying opportunity for the rest of the cycle. Let's go ahead and go to the daily here. Daily is a little more tricky because you have, I clear all this. You have this zone here that actually deviated below. So now you have this. So what you're looking for is actually the weekly to hold. The daily did not hold. The weekly has thus far. And so we need to hold that zone. This is going to be your key level for this to hold. Really this, $2 to 183. If it can hold within this zone, I think that's just fine. Now, and then that may take a couple of weeks to look at to recover. Now the daily is going to look a little weird because the weekly is holding up versus the daily. I can't think of any coin right now that may have, that may be doing that. But SUI is an example here. So on the weekly as well, we have a bearish consolidation, and so this is at the 19% marker. So this could take some time. It could take a few weeks, possibly even 4 weeks to recover just yet. We had a pretty decent momentum with this too for the past 2 months. It's been going very solid. A lot of coins have been doing pretty well for the past month actually. So don't be surprised if we kind of level off for the next week or two. It's completely possible. It doesn't have to be possible, but I think that should be realistic to you, bull or bear, right? So that's the weekly. Daily is that also bear consolidation as well. Hopefully we could cross bullish, but we're probably going to cross bearish here, and that could lead to a bullish consolidation. So I'm looking really, overall, I'm going to delete this again, is probably a chop within this range. I don't think we're going to go below 182, but I think we'll chop there longer than you might want to, maybe 2 weeks until it gives you a decision. But again, the key marker is that weekly time frame. Let's go ahead and go to Dogecoin. I'm going to put this together, and this is the weekly situation. I'm actually going to switch this over to Binance to give us a better look. So what we have here is we had we had the consolidation here. You know, we had an initial pump, which was pretty good at the time. It was half of a cent. Then it went to 7 cents. So that's pretty good. That's a 14x roughly. And then we went up to like 50 or 60 cents, 58, 60 cents. So that was good. We faded that consolidation, almost 2 years of consolidation. I think it might be 2 years. And then we pumped again, this little test pump. We tend to do that. We did that right here. We did that right here as well. You could barely see it. Also did that here. You can barely see it. And so now we're looking for a bigger long-term push option. Now there's a few things to consider. One, the weekly looks fantastic. We just crossed the bullish area flip on the weekly, looking very solid. Number two, this structure right here at the top, this resistance here at about 22 cents, and really just 23 cents to round completely up, that's going to be the trigger for this to go above. If it goes above 23 cents, it's going to go to 60 cents. Okay, and that's a little over a 2x. And so just keep that in mind. And if it goes there, it might go up to full. Now, just the biggest thing with Dogecoin is to keep in mind that once it pumps, it goes very quickly. It tends to last no longer than a month. You know, maybe 2 months. I guess this could be considered 2 months. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candle. Most of this was done within just over a month. So keep that in mind. That also signals the end of the bull run as well. That tends to be the case. So just keep that in mind. It could be the end of the bull run, and that could be your signal to look at that. This was a huge daily divergence, by the way. This was your first stab at the divergence. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was probably right here. Or no, that was it. Yeah. So this was your sign to think about getting out. It actually went up for a few more weeks, and that was the end of the bull run. So I am personally using Dogecoin as a soft rule of thumb. If it's starting to show weakness, which I consider divergences a weakness, that would be your sign to start reconsidering your exposure, thinking that the altcoin season might be over. Because you're going to have the opposite right now. Because right now, there's a lot of people saying that we're going to be super bearish here. People are saying that people are too euphoric right now. Okay, in a true euphoric stage, people are not going to commonly say, well, you're too euphoric. Okay, when the euphoria actually hits, that's going to be where you are going to get blocked. I have gotten blocked for cashing out when things have gone parabolic. Okay, I've also gotten blocked for trying to buy in at lows. Okay, people get really offended by that. Right now, we're not in either one of those territories, right? People are going back and forth with this. In a true euphoric stage, which first of all, we'd be at a high, we're pretty much at the low still. This is a great opportunity. And then what I was going to say is euphoria is a time where people will not think anything else but making life-changing money. So just keep that in mind. So that's Dogecoin in a nutshell. And so that is Sui and Dogecoin together. Let's go ahead and round out the video. So overall, just a real quick recap. Bitcoin, you had the coverage on the break on the weekly, looking pretty solid here. I think we could get a small fluctuation up or down for the next 2 weeks, possibly, and then continue to rally. I think we will rally going into mid-November for the rest of the year. We'll see how that goes. I think it looks pretty solid. Ethereum, a little bit different story. It's kind of weak overall. I think it's the weakest of the five, but we do have kind of an ascending triangle here, looking to kind of trigger to the upside. Hopefully that connects. On Solana, your big thing is the weekly formation right here. Looking for a continuation of the weekly. Have your consolidation. Everything's looking just fine. Might just need to be a little patient with this. I think it's the cleanest of the charts, honestly. I think Bitcoin is a very close second. Both of these are pretty close, but this is definitely the closest altcoin, or cleanest altcoin. Looks solid. I just think you just need to be patient with this. I'm not looking at really low time frames. This one's a buy and hold for me only. Like you buy it and you forget it. Sui, a little bit different. We're kind of retesting this 190 area. Need this to hold on the weekly. If it does, I think we're good to go for much higher. And then Dogecoin is really, really attractive on the weekly. I think it's going to do some numbers. This is the position that I was actually looking at. I think this is going to hold. It's looking pretty well. We'll see how that goes, but I'm pretty excited for Dogecoin as it might help with an altcoin run. So anyway, that's the video. Let me know what you think. I'm happy to discuss things more. Comment, subscribe, what have you. I'll see you next time.